Now back to Bubba Live Worldwide.
Standing by on the studio-to-studio Comrex, which has great quality. Shannon has one at his house, and of course JVC has one there at the studios, and I think that's what Don is using right now. It's the Midday guy for Florida Man Radio, and I've quickly become a fan. I really like this guy's swagger. This guy says some stuff that I wish I could say. Don, welcome. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, Bubba.
How you doing? What's the average Don Miller day? Like, is being on the radio your only job, Don? Like, the guy before you was like a lawyer and like a couple other things, or is just the Don Miller? Is he's just straight a radio personality?
Bubba, you know you can't be on the damn radio for one. That's your only job. Damn, hell no! I got to go to work when I leave here.
What now? What's Don Miller do?
I put out fires.
Oh, okay, I get you. All right, I understand.
I have been putting out fires for probably the better part of 30 years. I've worked in public relations, a little crisis management. But, yep, for about 30 years, and I'm still doing it. And
now, how did you first get your start in radio? Was it the vision of the great? Seth, you're a big Stevie DeMann fan, are you?
Oh,
not?
yeah.
Was it? Where you did Stevie DeMann find you, or had you been dabbling around in radio a little bit before?
I've been in radio a long time. Stevie DeMann. I found Stevie, and
there's Stevie.
I found Stevie, and they needed a Negro.
Oh.
And it's called the NAN program, Need a Negro.
Right. Wow. Hold on.
Wow. I haven't heard of that one.
I love that, and I think Stevie might be onto something. I think all big corporations need to have that program.
Yeah, I think you go away from DEI and just go straight to the NAN program, Need a Negro. But you got to also understand the process of paying. Pick a Negro as well.
Oh, okay. Well, I think it looks like we're killing it there at 103.1. We found one and we picked one, and that guy is killing it. I mean, I was listening to your take on the
Fonnie Willis.
Yeah, I was driving to Gainesville a few weeks ago, and I was going through Ocala, and I was listening to your take on what's her name, Lemmy?
Fonnie Willis.
Fonnie Willis, and you were like, "Listen, man. We got to stop playing the black card, and sometimes we just got to take L's. We just got to take some losses around here instead of thinking that we can always just win."
Well, Fannie Willis, I like to call her Fannie Willing, okay? Because one thing I learned as a young kid growing up on the south side of Chicago, old guy.
Seth, how about that, south side Chicago?
There you go.
Yeah.
Old guy, Mr. Willie, he's a pimp. He told me, "Baby boy, you can't turn a trick into a treat."
You can't turn a trick into the treat.
Can't turn a trick into a treat.
I used to work at B96, and I actually was one of the very few white guys that would take the B96 van down to Cabrini Green, and I would go out there and hand out all these free handouts to all the Cabrini Green people. Now, you know the Cabrini Green, I mean, there's some hardcore brothers up in there, right?
Yeah, it used to be. It's gentrified. A one bedroom, one bath costs $840,000.
So now, is Cabrini Green still a thing in Chicago?
No, it's gone now. But that area, Bubba, I'm telling you, is one of the most beautiful areas you've ever seen. As you remember when you were there.
Well, when I was there, it was one of the.
It was bad.
It was one of the it was the worst, most violent place in Chicago, and so I went down there as a white guy, and I would hand out like free concert tickets and CDs and stuff like that. And it got to be that anytime that B96 I was like the only white dude down there, and they loved me. They absolutely loved me.
Yeah, the issue with Cabrini Green was never about race. It was about everybody there, nobody had anything. And I think when you stack, like the number at one point was 19,000 tenants within a quarter of a mile radius. So the issue wasn't about race. The white people went over. That's where they got the good cocaine from. You know that.
Yeah, the white people wanted some, man, if you want some good coke, you can go to you can go to Naperville. But if you want the stuff, you got to get what the brothers are slinging in Cabrini Green, because that stuff's uncut and good. And now you might get stabbed down there.
Absolutely.
You might get rolled, but man, you're gonna get some good coke back in the day.
Yeah, Bubba, I remember listening. You and I may be around the same age. You may be a little younger, but I remember those days when you were at B96. And you had a large audience, and I just want to say how much I appreciate what you've done.
Me and Bad Boy Bill.
Remember Bill?
Hold on. Julian Jumpin' Perez, Tim Spinning Schomer, Frankie Knuckles Rodriguez, all part of the Hit Mix 5. Remember that?
Yeah, the Hot Mix 5. Frankie, Farley, Julian. Yes, all those guys.
Julian Jumpin' Perez still, I think he actually signed up, ran to be an alderman or a council member or something like that.
Yes, he did. He ran for the city council, and he didn't win, but Julian is still spinning records. Frankie passed away. But, Bubba, I remember there were people who thought you were a black guy for a long-ass time.
Oh, man, there would be years. Yeah, people would be sometimes disappointed when they would meet me and they would see a fat white guy, and they'd be like, I thought that was a cool-ass brother on the radio.
Absolutely, man. Those are some good old days. I was the first black assistant manager at Mother's. Remember Mother's, Bubba? It was a white club on Rush Street.
Yeah.
And the NAM program, they needed a Negro.
And they found it, too. So what's on the Don Miller Show today?
Got a lot to get to. Of course, I want to get to why none of the migrant illegals were shot at. Okay? If we did that over here, somebody's going to get shot. If we rush the National Guard, we rush the police, somebody's going to get shot. I want to talk about that because what I'm seeing, Bubba, is you guys just alluded to it. This is a problem. This is a great replacement. And the arrogance of this administration to drop 4,000, 5,000 illegals. When I say illegals, I mean people who have circumvented the system, who have walked into this country and are living off other people's work. And so when they come in this country, you drop 4,000 or 5,000 on the west side of Chicago and the south side of Chicago. That's a different level of arrogance. And so, I want to hit on that for sure.
And, and here's the thing. So we're dropping all these migrants, all these immigrants that don't know their way around town. They're not necessarily the nicest or the best people. Mm-hmm. And Chicago already has a problem with Americans, Americans that were born in Chicago fighting and killing each other.
Absolutely.
I mean, like 17, 18. No, doesn't Chicago have anywhere between 15 and 20 shootings a weekend?
Probably the average right now, maybe at 23, 24. I follow it every week. There's a website that's amazing that I go to called HeyJackass.com. It can pinpoint where the person was shot on their body to the second in which it happened.
But when does the Chicagos and the LAs and the Philadelphias and the New York Cities, when do they put in a guy like Grady Judd, or they put in a conservative, very pro-police type guy, or because isn't it just going to continue to deteriorate if you put these liberal woke ass mayors that are ruining the San Franciscos, ruining the Chicagos. I mean, Laura, what was that girl, Lori Lightfoot?
You mean that guy, Beetlejuice?
Yeah, Beetlejuice.
She needs, honest to God, how can the people of Chicago be their? Chicago is about grit. Chicago's about the working man. And how can those people that live in inner city Chicago, black, white, or whatever, how can they put these buffoons in there knowing that they're anti-police, they're woke, how can they do that?
The greatest problem in America today is woke-ass white people. And let's be clear. If we want to have a real conversation, woke whites are ruining our country, okay? I'm just telling you, Bubba.
Yeah, we need to get on the NEN program.
Need a Negro.
But you know what? Can I put the word good in there?
Oh, absolutely. Please put that in there. Smart or intelligent or non-woke.
Just like if I'm going to hire a white guy, I want him to be smart and intelligent.
Yes.
Well, if I want to hire a black guy, I want him to have the same attributes.
Absolutely, 100%. Right. But when you look at the city right now, since we're talking about Chicago, the mayor, I call him bitch-ass Brandon Johnson. We are raising an entire community in this country of bitch-ass men, soft men. I'm telling you, I don't know what happened to the old guys who took care that we looked up to, but these are the softest bitch-ass men I've ever seen.
We don't have real. We were taught to go to work at 18, either go to college or go to work.
Yes.
We made our way.
Yes.
Our parents helped us a little bit if we needed it, but get your ass out there and pull yourself up and get to contributing or get to contribute or being self-sufficient. And nonetheless, there's kids now that are living with their parents till they're 30 years old.
Yeah, and they are total. They always complain Okay, it's everybody else's fault. Man, we got to shut them down, man. Look, man, if you got a raggedy-ass kid hanging around the house at 27, you might be wanting to ask that child to get out of your damn house. My mama told me, look, if you're not bringing money in by the time you're 20, you got to find somewhere else to go.
Now, and if we were to further fragment it into the African American community, I think, in my personal opinion, and I've heard you talk about it. The only reason I'm bringing it up is because I heard you talk about it.
Yep.
But that's the absence of a strong black dad. That's the absence of that. That's where a lot of the African American community is deteriorating. Is the fact that these men are not raising their sons and their daughters. They're going out and doing whatever. Which now these sons and daughters are being raised by grandmas and grandpas.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the big issue. And I hear you talk about it on the show all the time.
Well, Bubba, it used to be the sons and daughters were raised by grandmothers when we were coming up. If there was a failure or a glitch in the family structure, absolutely, Big Mama was going to step right in, or somebody's auntie. The problem is now the grandmama's 34. Okay, so damn. Okay, Grandma's 34. She's going to the club Friday night, right?
Right. She's on the pole. Grandma's 34. She's on the pole and she's selling crack on Saturdays.
That's the problem. Grandma's not even 40. I know a young lady's got 2 grandkids. She's 38 years old. She can't help herself.
And so, and her daughter or her son who produced these, are they together as a family unit?
Hell no. Come on, Bubba. You know they ain't together, man. Why are you trying to be funny, man? Don't disrespect me like that. Hell no, man.
I'm just asking, man. Jesus, trying to get the stats, brother.
I'm still trying to find my daddy. If he walked up now, I'd hit him in the throat. Come on, Bubba. Bubba, you get on this damn radio, act like you some highfalutin white dude. You from Middle America. You know the system broke.
I'm from Warsaw, Indiana. We only had 3 black guys in the entire town, and they were all like when you only have 3 black guys in your entire town of 7,000, then those black guys aren't even black guys. They're just white guys.
They're okay.
Yeah,
right.
We didn't have no problem with them. In fact, they were all really smart, did really well in school. One of them played basketball. The other 2, whatever. The 2 families were the Cooks and the Churchills, and the Cooks were a little more affluent. The Churchills were a little more rough around the edges, but the Churchills, man, their dad was a badass, and like Sammy Churchill went to school with me, and Sammy was the most well-behaved guy, not white or black. He was the most well-behaved because Sammy Churchill's dad, Jerome Churchill, he looked like the guy from Shawshank Redemption.
But if your daddy named Jerome, you know you're going to get your ass towed up, okay?
I mean, his dad looked like the guy from Shawshank Redemption, and we were like, man, we wouldn't even go to Sam's house to play, not because he was a black guy, because his dad was like 6'4", 260, and we were afraid that he and he could whip. And Sammy Churchill's dad, Jerome, he could whip all of our dad's asses. So if we would do something, our dads couldn't even go over there and do they'd get their ass whipped.
Right. What's funny though, Bubba, when you talk about growing, I'm looking at America today in this conversation about race that's being driven directly. It's a total narrative. Anybody you grew up with in that era of the country, there was the conversation about race wasn't even it wasn't even in the conversation. Sammy Churchill could date Megan Korshak. You know what I mean?
He could.
Nobody gave a damn.
It was a little. Megan Korshak may have got a little flack, but I mean, at the end of the day, Sammy Churchill didn't have to worry about getting hung or getting,
absolutely.
Sammy Churchill was just a smooth ass brother at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
What do you think about the Black Lives Matter movement?
Come on, Bubba, man. Why you know what I think about Black Lives marketing?
But hold on,
it's Black Lives marketing.
Hold on,
that's what it
Don,
was.
I'm trying to introduce my audience to you, so I'm asking you softball questions so that my audience can be like, God dang, that is the coolest black guy I've ever heard. So when I get done listening to Bubba, I'm going to go find the Florida Man Radio app.
Florida
Man.
It on
so anybody, for my audience right now, let's say it's listening
Bubba,
to me.
Black Lives Matter was a con, Bubba. It was a total con, just like George Floyd was not a hero. Let's be clear, all right? Let's be clear. That's what I talk about on the Don Miller Show. Black Lives Matter was a con, but it was supported by some woke-ass white people and white guilt at the time. This is where the whole DEI conversation came at. George Floyd wasn't the first time. He was the filmed time. So everybody felt guilty about what they saw.
I like that. It wasn't the first time. It was the first filmed time.
Yes, sir.
Wow. That's strong.
Yes.
And so, like, with regards to the the Black Lives Matter, are these girls, are they, any of them going to get prosecuted? Are they going to get prosecuted? Wasn't it like $6 million?
I think it happens if we get President Trump back in. I think that the Department of Justice right now is all over the place. They stole a lot of money, a lot more than $6 million. They bought a $6 million house.
Yeah.
Right.
But again, a bunch of lesbians, Black Lives Matter came out of the LGBT conversation. A bunch of lesbians saw inroads. And if you look at the black community,
and those lesbians are always smart. They're always on the.
I'm telling you, man, they always and they know how to co-op. So everybody co-ops black people. Hey, let's get over there to the black people. They'll support it. But they didn't care about what happened in Minnesota, because if they cared about what happened in Minnesota, the problem wouldn't have been the cop as much as would have been Amy Klobuchar, who was the district attorney when this cop came before her 9 or 10 times for just engaging in this kind of behavior. But these same people.
So you're saying that Amy Klobuchar had an opportunity to get, what was that?
Derek Chauvin?
Yes.
In order to get Chauvin's off the force, or at least get him on the radar of being a bad cop, so that woman could have stopped this whole scenario.
Absolutely. And Bubba, in the midst of this case, in the midst of this American, where everybody in the world is looking at Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar, the arrogant bitch, is running for president of the United States. Does anybody remember that?
No.
And nobody attached her to this. Amy Klobuchar, she was the district attorney in Hennepin County when this guy got in trouble over and over and over again, yet she did nothing about it. And she runs as a Democrat she puts her name in the hat for president, and nobody says anything.
Now, does Biden or does the Democratic Party know just how, I mean, you're an African-American man, you're a talk show host, you have, pretty good ties to the African-American community, you are, very much a breath of fresh air in the whole conservative talk show arena. But, like, do the Democrats know that African Americans, for the most part, are no longer just a shoe-in for them to vote for the current guy they got in there? And that there's a lot of African Americans that are like, listen, man, we need a change. And now, that doesn't mean we're going to go vote blue right on down the line. We're gonna make a change here. Does the Democrats know that their African American numbers have slipped like nearly 50% since the election?
Let me tell you how much they know. They just had Glorilla at the White House, okay? Glorilla. I don't know if you guys know. Lummy got to know who Glorilla is, right? Glorilla is horrible. She's got a 4th grade education. They just had the vice president sitting with Sexy Red. Sexy Red is horrible. Sexy Red got a 3rd grade education, and her number one selling lipstick is Gonorrhea Green. Yes, they know. They're desperate. No, for real. She's got a cosmetic
I'm looking
line.
it up right now.
Well, Glorilla, though,
she does.
her cousin is Cardi B. So,
yeah, hold on. Yeah, so what was it? Illegal Red? Is that her name?
Yeah, that's one.
No, yeah, Sexy Red, who has a lipstick line. Her Gonorrhea Green is one of her most popular colors. And discharge yellow.
So when does the African American community say, no, we ain't doing this? We're not making a woman that wants to come up with STD based lipsticks. That doesn't represent Don Miller. That doesn't represent the average American. Before I put African in there, the average dark.
Yeah, I'm American. I'm an American, but
right. I'm sorry, but the average dark black or American. But darker skinned American, that they don't want that. They're not into the.
But I'm telling you, Bubba, they see it. They don't know how to handle it because black people have been. This is what I say all the time. Black people have been the side chick to the Democratic Party historically, right? They only come see us when it's that time, right? I don't know if you know what a side chick.
Yeah, side ass. You got some side ass.
Yeah. And so now all of a sudden they see it's not working and they're in a panic. They've lost the young people.
Do you think we can get the African Americans to be the GOP side ass? Do you think we can?
I could tell you what's going to happen. The number's going to shift significantly. They may not go. Look, a lot of black people aren't Republican, but they're Trumpers. And I think we have to separate the difference between the Republican Party and Trumpers. There are black people who love Trump all over this country. But, of course, the media is downplaying it. You can go from Maine to Mississippi, and I'm telling you, you can find black people who support this president because they are identifying with the weaponization of the justice system against this guy as they did to Skeeter, Deontay, and Jaquan. Okay? So, again, when you weaponize a system, think about this. Think about it. Before 1972, I got a caller called in the other day. We were talking about this. The prison industrial complex was single-handedly created by Joe Biden and a couple of his racist buddies, Strom Thurmond and Robert Byrd, right? And that is his claim to fame, his legislative action judicially, sending people to prison for 30 years.
Much like Eisenhower,
absolutely.
He warned the American public in his going away speech of the industry complex or the military industry complex, and how that would be potentially the way that our country gets destroyed. Why we are beholden to be in a war. So now you're saying, let's take that a step further,
right.
and go with what you said.
You think about this, right? Right now, there's still almost 17,000 people incarcerated in America's prison system for marijuana, for reefer, right? Yet reefer is the fastest growing. It's not fair.
It's one of the largest growing. Like if you're an entrepreneur and you can get in on the, I can legally grow weed and have a dispensary deal. I mean, you're gonna be printing money.
Absolutely. So nobody should be in jail for weed.
So there's 17,000 people federally that are in jail.
No, not federally. State, because
just in the state of Florida, there's 17,000 African Americans or 17,000 people.
17,000 people across the country.
For
marijuana. But now listen, this is why the curveball conversation always pops out of the Democrats' mouth. Listen to this. Joe Biden said he pardoned people for marijuana. First of all, to be in federal prison, which is the only place he can pardon, you got to have 13,000 pounds of reefer, okay? Nobody goes to federal jail for selling small amounts of reefer. But nobody pays attention. Everybody's so excited to hear somebody acknowledge something that their struggle is. I just believe we need to start picking our struggle, man. You pick your struggle. Everything can't be your struggle. And the fact that the Democrats have just bludgeoned to death the black community. But I am so hopeful that the black community is rising up. If you look at what's happening in Chicago, they are protesting to bringing the Democratic Nasty Convention there this summer. They don't want it.
Do you get a lot of pushback from other black people?
Hell yeah.
Do they call you like Uncle Tom and stuff?
Okay, I'm an Uncle Tom. I'm a coon. I've been a bootlicker. But I also been denied interest into the NAACP. You can Google my name and the NAACP. I'm the only black person I know that have been denied interest into the NAACP.
The only bad person that's got a media platform that's denied from the NAACP.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
Now, on what grounds?
They didn't want me, Bubba. You have been put out of something, Bubba.
Oh, yeah, I got been put out a lot.
Don't get me started, Don.
Don't get me started, Don.
Okay. Yeah, they thought that I was attacking
you were just
them.
too volatile,
No, they thought I was attacking the organization. And my thing with the history of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, when it was founded by the white lady, Mary Ovington, a Jewish lady, might I add, who went out and got W.E.B. and Ida B. Wells and some other black people. The mission was a really good, solid mission. Okay, what we've seen over the years is the National Association for the Advancement of Certain People, or corporate protectionism. I can tell you it gives no damns about people that it was started for. So, again, they didn't want to hear that. They couldn't prove me wrong, so they denied my interest.
Donald Trump needs to put you on his cabinet, Don Miller. I'll tell you that right now.
Man, I can't run for student council, man. What are you talking about?
Hey, Don, maybe from time to time, every couple weeks or so, I really like your swagger. I love your show. I try to catch it as much as I can. By the way, if you're Bubba Army and you're listening to me, like, let's say in Phoenix or one of our other places other than Florida Man Radio, you can go get the Florida Man Radio app. Anywhere you can get your app, just type in Florida Man Radio. Get the app, and Don Miller is on right after me, between me and Shannon Burke. and he really he's. I got to tell you, I've told Shannon privately, and I've told Shane privately, no less than 3 or 4 times. Don Miller, listen, me and Shannon may be the 2 established guys, whatever I said, but Don Miller is the up and coming star on this format. You really are. You're a breath of fresh air, very well spoken, very well educated, and one of the very few African American men that'll lay his balls out on the table and say, yeah, I'm going to say that, and I'm going to stand behind it. And not a lot of people are doing that, Don.
Well, Bubba, I appreciate you. I'm going to keep trying to do it as long as I can, but this is what I want to tell people. If you want to take a position on the issue, don't change weed mans. Keep the same weed man, okay? I got the same weed man for 31 years.
Yeah, so make any kind of changes you want, but man,
Xantavius Johnson.
Stick with the same weed man, right?
Yep, don't change.
Because man, when the weed man changes, you probably know that somebody's up to no good trying to arrest a brother. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, my friend.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Don, I look to talking to you soon, my friend. Tell Stevie thanks for hooking us up.
Okay.
And don't forget, Don comes on right about 10 o'clock, 10 to 2. Between me and Shannon, so on Florida Man Radio. Go get the app if you want to hear the coolest brother there is. And from time to time, Don, let's do updates, okay?
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Don.
it.
Bye,
Bye,
Don.
y'all.
See you later. Bye now. Isn't it isn't it refreshing to have a black guy go in there and have a political or just a monologue, like, you know, he's a monologuer. He monologues and talks about the news, but with common sense.
Not only that,
as a black man with common sense, and does the furthest thing from even trying to play the black card.
I think that the most refreshing thing about him is you can have an honest conversation with him without feeling like you're about to be called a racist at every moment of the conversation.
I bet you know what? I bet you.
Because that happens a lot. If you say anything, you're like, maybe the father absence is a problem in the black community. They're like, racist. You're like, okay, well, I don't know how to help.
Eric Gill, 40 on the Cash App. Don Miller, great segment.
For Don Miller. Don Miller, man. Love that guy. Love that guy. But I wonder, like, could a guy like Grady Judd or somebody like that, could that person get elected in these larger cities, or is it just there's just not enough people to elect a guy like that?
There's not enough people to elect a guy like that.
I think Grady Judd could be governor here.
No. I mean, I'm talking about
Chicago, Philly.
I'm talking about like some of these big metropolitan cities that are having huge problems based on defunding the police, and like the mayor of Philadelphia. Like if you're the mayor of Philadelphia, then you run the police department, and they enforce what laws mean more to you.
See, that's where it's odd, because they're not trying to solve the problem. They know how to. They're not trying to. They're trying to keep themselves in power.
Grady Judd in Chicago?
But hold on. Let's say Don Miller. I mean, an African American. So let's say, okay, the voting block of Chicago is 70 inner city Chicago proper, not outlying, because the city of Chicago has nothing to do with Schaumburg or Naperville or Cicero or any of these outlying. They have their own police departments and own governmental systems. But the city of Chicago proper, probably is 70-30 African American. So it's going to be an African American that gets in there, or a white, very, very much liberal, snowflake, woke-ass white guy, which I think is the situation now. But what if Chicago would get a brother up in there like Don Miller, African-American, but very conservative, and, wants to come in through military ways and really, really clamp down on crime. If you go into a jewelry store and you rob $950 worth, I think in New York and LA and in San Francisco, they have a threshold of if it's $750 or $1,000 or whatever it is, you can literally go in there and pull off. Let's say in San Francisco it's $1,000. You could literally steal $900 worth of jewelry, clothes, games, whatever, and walk straight out, and they can't do anything about it.
My sister lives in San Francisco, and she tells me that a Walgreens and CVS closes down like every week over there.
So it's $950 in California, $500 in Chicago.
Okay, so if you got Don Miller, that's running for the mayor of Chicago.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't give a crap if you go in there and break in and steal a bottle of soda. We're arresting your ass. I mean, you could immediately make an impact on, the mindset of our city government. Why aren't there more Don Millers?
Because they're not electable in those cities.
Really?
Yeah.
But I sent you that.
If you're living in Chicago,
you think they're going to vote for a guy who was banned from the
hold on.
NAACP? Probably not.
If I'm a black guy, and I'm trying to just work my ass off at a regular job, and I live in Chicago proper, which means I'm the city of Chicago. I want my wife and my child to be able to go down to the store and not worry about it getting robbed,
and not feel like they might die.
I don't want 19 or 20 people getting shot each weekend. I want my police department going up and down the streets looking for bad guys, because you know what? I'm not going to be on the streets doing stupid stuff. I'm going to be raising my family. We're going to be having dinner. My kids are hopefully going to be able to walk to and from school safely. And I don't understand how any of that, are you saying that the average African American that lives in Chicago is not a responsible man that wants good? Instead, he's some thug that wants to make robbing the convenience store for $4.99 legal.
Well, here's the thing: it's usually a package deal. So yeah, they might be tougher on crime, and obviously that might be better for the community. But are they going to be giving out stipends and handouts and
No, a lot of that, and I sent you that website that Don Miller. It's actually pretty interesting. But a lot of times, like the police chief in Chicago wants to crack down on it, but it's the DAs, the governors, the mayors.
Yeah, so it's not just so you're saying, okay, the mayor may want it, and he brings in the police chief to do it.
Yep.
And they start doing it, but they weren't able to get their type of thinking district attorney, Mark Ober, and so Mark Ober is still one of those, woke ass brothers, and he's like, I'm not prosecuting them. So the good cops and the great leaders can bring them in, but if they're not getting prosecuted, you're right, Lummy.
Yeah, they get frustrated.
Right. You're exactly right.
We got a couple Chicago PD that listened to the show that actually have moved down to Florida because they were so frustrated with what was going on up there.
This is what I'm going to show. I'm going to show.
We also have to break.
We have to break real fast, and then we're done. And then it's the Anna Hummel show. I like Don. Did everybody like Seth? Did you like Don Miller?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
What is he going to say? No.
Yeah. Anyway, Lummy.
That guy.
Shannon Burke just sent me this text, and this is what this is what makes me hard. So he's got a picture of us on here. I'll show it to you. Here, Seth, can you see it? There's a picture. Yes. There's a screenshot of somebody that's watching the show. And Shannon says, the Bagel King of Lakemont Avenue and Winter Park used to be huge monster show. Watch the monsters. Now Bubba Army every morning.
Ooh, send that to me. I'll post
Isn't that cool? Mm-hmm. The Bagel King. They used to watch the monsters.
Not anymore.
And now they're on us. Bitch, we're killing it in Orlando. Plus, we got a Don Miller kicker. Coolest black guy known to man.
That's right.
Love him.
Yes, this is a daily telethon. We got to keep the lights on somehow. So don't forget PayPal, Cash App, and Venmo. All at BubbaArmyHQ.com.
Bubba the Love Sponge.
We'll be back after this.